Stop feeling. Start focusing. Your emotions are distractions, trained by weakness, fueled by comfort, and rewarded by failure. Every time you hesitate because of how you feel, you kill your momentum. Every time you wait for motivation, someone else outworks you. This audiobook isn't about comfort, it's about control, about replacing emotion with execution. You don't need to feel ready. You need to move, act, and build a mind that obeys command, not emotion. This is your mental reset. No feelings. Just focus. You've been told all your life to follow your feelings. That's the problem. Your feelings are inconsistent, your emotions are unreliable, and yet most people live like slaves to them, obeying every wave, every impulse, every mood. But here's the truth. Your emotions are not commands. They're suggestions. They whisper, they tempt, they distract. But you decide, you act, you move, you execute. That's the key. When you wake up and don't feel like getting up, you do it anyway. When you don't feel like training, studying, working, showing up, you do it anyway. That's discipline. That's power. Because the strongest people you know, they don't feel strong every day. They act strong every day. It's not about motivation, it's about movement. It's not about how you feel, it's about what you do, despite how you feel. Let's be real. Most people wait for the perfect mood. They wait until they're ready. They wait until it feels right. And that's why they never start. That's why they stay stuck. Because life doesn't reward feelings, it rewards execution. You're tired? So what? You're scared? So what? You don't feel like it? So what? Do it anyway. That's how winners are built. You want to change your life? Stop negotiating with your emotions. Stop asking yourself how you feel. Start asking yourself what needs to be done. Because here's a hard truth. Your emotions lie. They exaggerate. They distort reality. They will convince you that you're not ready, that you're not capable, that you're not enough. But your actions, your consistent, deliberate actions, they tell the truth. They build confidence. They create evidence. They turn weakness into strength. Think about an elite athlete. Do you think they feel ready every time they perform? No. They perform because they trained consistency into instinct. They've repeated their process so many times that feelings don't matter anymore. It's automatic, it's habitual, it's identity. You act, you move, you execute. No hesitation, no emotion-driven delay. And that's what separates professionals from amateurs. Amateurs wait for passion. Professionals work through resistance. The amateur says, I'll start when I feel motivated. The professional says, I'll start and motivation will follow. See the difference? Motivation is temporary. Discipline is permanent. Motivation depends on feelings. Discipline depends on decisions. You can't control how you feel, but you can control what you do. And that control, that choice, is everything. You have a choice every single day. You can either act according to your emotions or according to your goals. You can either obey your feelings or command your future. That's the key distinction. Your emotions are not enemies, they're signals. But you must interpret them, not obey them. Feel fear? Good. That means you care. Move anyway. Feel tired? Good. That means you're human. Move anyway. Feel unmotivated? Good. That means your brain is testing you. Move anyway. You move, you act, you execute. Every action you take, especially when you don't feel like it, builds strength. Every time you win that small inner war, you grow. You train yourself to lead instead of follow, to command instead of comply. And that's what separates leaders from followers. The ability to act regardless of mood. Let me tell you something powerful. Action changes emotion faster than emotion changes action. You don't think your way into new behavior. You behave your way into new thinking. You don't wait to feel confident. You act with courage until confidence appears. You don't wait to feel inspired. You move and inspiration meets you on the road. You don't need a perfect mindset to begin. You just need movement. Movement creates momentum. Momentum creates belief. Belief creates transformation. That's the formula. You move first, you think later, you act, you move, you execute. This is how the strongest people live. They've learned to separate emotion from execution. They can feel fear, but act with courage. They can feel doubt, but show up with consistency. They can feel pain, but stay disciplined. That's what makes them unstoppable. Not their mood, their mastery. You don't need to feel ready to start. You start, and that's what makes you ready. You don't need to feel strong to take the first step. You take the step, and that's what builds your strength. Every single day you prove to yourself that feelings don't control you. You control them through action. And when you understand that, truly understand that, you become dangerous. Because nothing can stop you anymore. Not fear, not fatigue, not doubt. You've disconnected emotion from performance. You've rewired your mind to move, no matter what. That's when life bends in your direction. Because the universe doesn't reward those who wait. It rewards those who move. Here's your command for today. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop needing to feel confident. Stop chasing emotional comfort. Just do the work. Get up when you don't feel like it. Show up when no one's watching. Do what's required, not what's convenient. You'll feel resistance. That's normal. You'll feel fear. That's expected. But you'll also feel power. Power that comes from movement. That's how transformation begins. Not with emotion, with execution. You act, you move, you execute, over and over until it becomes who you are. Comfort kills clarity. Let that sink in. Every time life feels easy, every time you feel safe, every time you start to relax, your edge starts to fade. Comfort softens you, pressure builds you. That's not just a slogan, that's a law of life. You think you want peace, you think you want rest, you think you want balance. But what you really want, what your soul actually craves, is growth. And growth never comes from comfort. Growth comes from friction, from fight, from the moments when everything in you wants to quit, but you don't. You see, focus is born in discomfort. When you're tired, broke, or underestimated, that's when your mind wakes up. That's when the noise fades, and all that's left is survival. Pressure forces you to choose what matters. Comfort lets you drift in circles. Think about the times you changed the most. It wasn't when everything was perfect. It wasn't when people praised you. It was when you hit the wall. It was when the world said you can't, and you decided, watch me. That's when your focus sharpened like a blade. That's when your potential finally showed up. You have to understand this truth. Your greatest enemy isn't failure. It's comfort. Failure hurts, but it teaches. Comfort feels good, but it kills drive. Comfort convinces you to take a day off. Comfort whispers, you've done enough. Comfort says you can slow down now. And just like that, you start to lose momentum. One skip day becomes two. One easy decision becomes a pattern. And soon, you're not the person you were becoming. You're the person you used to be. Comfort is not your friend. It's the quiet assassin of ambition. Pressure, on the other hand, is the furnace that forges character. When you're under pressure, you don't have time to overthink. You act. You adapt. You evolve. Pressure makes you resourceful. It teaches you to do more with less, to fight smarter, to dig deeper. Remember this, when you're comfortable, you're declining. When you're uncomfortable, you're growing. Here's the paradox. Most people chase comfort all their lives and wonder why they never feel fulfilled. They buy convenience, but lose resilience. They choose shortcuts, but forfeit mastery. They seek approval, but lose identity. And then they wonder why their life feels empty, even when it looks good on paper. The truth? Comfort numbs you. It dulls your hunger. It turns warriors into watchers. You can't build a sharp mind in a soft environment. You can't build discipline in a world that rewards excuses. You can't build clarity in chaos you chose for convenience. If you want to be sharp, put yourself in situations that demand sharpness. If you want to stay strong, live where pressure tests your limits. Every time you feel the pull toward comfort, recognize it for what it is, a trap. The trap of mediocrity disguised as peace. The trap of safety disguised as wisdom. The trap of taking it easy. When you haven't earned that rest, you have to earn your comfort through consistent discomfort. You have to bleed for your peace. You have to fight for your focus. You can't claim to want greatness and still worship ease. You can't talk about success and still chase comfort. You have a choice. Every single day you have a choice. Comfort or clarity. Softness or strength. Distraction or focus. The people who win in life are the ones who choose pressure on purpose. They don't wait for life to get hard. They make it hard. They create challenges. They build resistance. They train their minds to thrive under stress, not collapse because of it. You don't grow when it's easy. You grow when you're tested. Pressure is a privilege. It means there's something in you worth testing. Let's be clear. I'm not saying destroy yourself. I'm saying discipline yourself. There's a difference. Destruction is chaos. Discipline is control. When you choose to live with structure, when you choose to do the hard things daily, you build pressure on purpose. That's controlled stress. That's productive pain. Wake up early when you don't have to. Say no when you want to say yes. Work when others rest. Push when you're tired. That's how you sharpen your edge. That's how you build focus. Because focus is not a natural state, it's a trained skill. You have to train it in discomfort. You have to build it through repetition, through resistance, through the decision to stay locked in when everything around you says relax. When your mind starts to drift, remind yourself, comfort softens you, pressure builds you. Say it again, comfort softens you, pressure builds you. Every time you say it, you realign your focus. You pull yourself out of distraction and back into discipline. This mantra is your mental anchor, because when the storm hits, and it will, comfort won't save you. Discipline will, pressure will, focus will. And the only way to build those things is to live in the fire a little longer than most people can stand. Think of the moments when you were exhausted but kept going. When you had nothing left, but still moved forward. Those are the moments that built you. Those are the moments that rewired your identity. Every challenge, every setback, every sleepless night, it all adds weight to your foundation. You're not breaking down under pressure. You're hardening, you're evolving. Because the truth is, life doesn't get easier. You get stronger, you get sharper, you get more focused. But only if you stop chasing comfort and start respecting the pressure. Let others seek convenience. Let others chase balance. You're here for mastery. You're here to become unshakable. You don't need comfort, you need clarity. You don't need ease. You need pressure. You don't need their permission, you need discipline. Remember, comfort is the enemy of focus. If you want to build a mind that cuts through distraction like a blade through glass, you must live where it's uncomfortable. You must operate under pressure until pressure becomes normal. So the next time you feel tired, drained, or defeated, don't ask for comfort. Ask for clarity. Ask, what is this moment teaching me? Ask, how can I grow through this pressure? Because the world doesn't reward the comfortable, it rewards the focused, it rewards the disciplined, it rewards those who stand tall in the storm and keep their eyes on the goal. Comfort softens you, pressure builds you. Repeat it until it becomes part of who you are. You can't rely on happiness. You can't rely on motivation. You can't even rely on inspiration. Because all of those things, every single one come and go like the weather. Some days you wake up ready to conquer the world. Other days, you can't even drag yourself out of bed. That's life. That's how it works. But here's the truth that most people don't want to hear. You don't need to feel good to do good. You don't need to want to move forward to actually move forward. You just need discipline. That's the key. Discipline is not a mood. Discipline is a system. It's the backbone of every achievement, every transformation, every person who ever built something out of nothing. You see, your emotions are unreliable narrators. They tell you stories that make quitting sound reasonable. They whisper excuses like you're tired, or you deserve a break, or maybe tomorrow. Discipline doesn't listen to that noise. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care if you're tired, hurt, or uninspired. Discipline says, do it anyway. And that's what separates the winners from the rest. You can look at any high-performing person, athletes, soldiers, entrepreneurs, monks. They've all mastered one thing, emotional neutrality. They don't ride the waves of their feelings. They anchor themselves in their systems. A Navy SEAL doesn't wake up and think, do I feel like running 10 miles in the dark? A monk doesn't wonder, am I in the mood to meditate today? A CEO doesn't ask, do I feel inspired to lead this meeting? No. They just do it, because they've built systems that override emotion. They've turned discipline into reflex. That's what you must build. When you start, it won't feel easy. You'll fight yourself every day. Your emotions will scream louder than your logic. But here's the secret. If you stay consistent long enough, discipline becomes your default setting. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking, should I, and start doing automatically. That's when life changes. Because once discipline takes over, progress becomes inevitable. Let's make this practical. Start by creating non-negotiable routines. Wake up at the same time every day, train at the same hour, work at the same schedule, eat at the same times. Why? Because you're teaching your mind that action doesn't depend on emotion. You're conditioning your brain to understand that you move because it's time, not because you feel like it. That's the real power of discipline. It eliminates decision fatigue. It simplifies life. You stop wasting mental energy deciding if you should do something. You just do it. And every time you act without emotion, you strengthen your will. That's how discipline grows. Rep by rep, choice by choice, moment by moment. Let me tell you this: motivation is temporary fuel. Discipline is the engine. Motivation can start the fire, but only discipline keeps it burning. Most people never understand that. They chase feelings, not results. They look for inspiration, not consistency. They read one quote, watch one video, feel good for 1 hour, and then stop. You can't build greatness in emotional bursts. You build it in the boring repetition. You build it in silence. You build it in the invisible hours where nobody is watching and nobody is cheering. That's where real confidence comes from. Not from emotion, but from evidence. Every disciplined act is proof that you can trust yourself. And that self-trust is the most powerful emotion you'll ever feel. Discipline is not punishment. It's freedom. Freedom from emotional slavery. Freedom from inconsistency. Freedom from regret. You're not suppressing your feelings, you're mastering them. Because when you train discipline, you're not killing your emotions. You're reordering them. You're telling your emotions you can exist, but you don't get to drive. You can feel fear, but still take action. You can feel doubt, but still show up. You can feel tired, but still do the work. That's real power. That's maturity. That's control. When people ask me, how do I stay consistent? I tell them, stop chasing how you feel and start honoring what you said you'd do. If you made a commitment, keep it. If you said you'd go to the gym, go. If you said you'd write, write. Not because it feels good, but because it's who you are now. That's identity-level discipline. And once discipline becomes your identity, failure becomes nearly impossible. You'll slip, yes, but you won't stay down. You'll miss a day, yes, but you won't lose the habit because you've trained yourself to return, to reset, to move forward again and again. Think about it like this: your emotions are like weather. Your discipline is the climate. The weather changes, the climate stays. If you rely on weather, you'll never last. If you rely on climate, if you rely on discipline, you'll endure anything. That's how warriors are built. That's how leaders are made. That's how legacies are written. Through discipline, not emotion. So from today forward, stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to want it. You'll never feel perfectly aligned. You'll never feel completely confident. You just start. And once you start, you don't stop. The feelings will catch up later. Remember, discipline is the only emotion that matters, because discipline creates results, and results create confidence, and confidence creates momentum. That's the cycle. That's the system. And when you live by that system, your emotions no longer control you. You control them. You've learned that discipline is the engine. You've learned that emotion is noise. Now it's time to channel that power, to build consistency, to create structure, to own your time and your habits completely. Because when your day is structured, your mind becomes calm. And when your mind becomes calm, your purpose becomes unstoppable. You want peace, but you cling to everything that disturbs it. You want focus, but you chase every distraction. You want strength, but you attach your worth to outcomes that aren't in your control. That's why you're suffering. You're not losing because you're weak. You're losing because you're attached. You're attached to validation. You're attached to recognition. You're attached to the illusion of control, and every attachment becomes a chain. Listen carefully. Detach or be destroyed. Because the truth is brutal. Your emotions lie. Your feelings fluctuate. One day they push you forward. The next, they pull you down. You can't build anything lasting on emotional instability, but you can build everything on discipline. You have to understand this. You're not your emotions. You're your actions. Say that again. In your mind. Let it echo. You're not your emotions. You're your actions. That's the key. Every time you react emotionally, you give away power. Every time you chase approval, you surrender your identity. Every time you attach your self-worth to results, you lose control of your focus. You have to execute without expectation. That's how warriors move. That's how winners think. When you detach from outcome, you free yourself from fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of being misunderstood. You stop asking, what if this doesn't work? And you start declaring, I'll execute anyway. That's mental freedom. Detachment isn't about not caring, it's about caring correctly. It's not apathy, it's alignment. You don't stop giving effort, you stop giving emotion to what's out of your control. You still play the game, but you stop obsessing over the score. Understand this deeply. The outcome is not your business. Execution is. When you attach to the result, you lose sight of the process. When you attach to the process, you become unstoppable. Because the process is what you can control. The process is where discipline lives. And discipline doesn't need applause. That's why detachment is not weakness, it's mastery. It's the highest form of strength. To act without craving reward, to give without expecting return, to stay calm when others panic. The weak get attached, the strong stay aligned. You've seen it before. People burning out, chasing validation. They don't work for progress, they work for praise. They don't train for growth, they train for recognition. And that's why they quit when no one's watching. That's why they fade when results don't show up fast enough. But you can't afford that. You must train yourself to execute with emotional neutrality. You must learn to move without begging for reward. You must act because it's what must be done, not because you feel like it. You think champions feel like it every day? They don't, they just show up. They detach from the noise and focus on the next rep, the next move, the next action. You're not your emotions. You're your actions. And actions built on discipline outlast every feeling you'll ever have. Here's how you train detachment. Stop labeling your emotions. Don't say, I feel lazy. Say, I'm choosing not to act. Don't say, I feel scared. Say, I'm moving despite fear. Your language controls your mind. Control it. Set standards, not goals. Goals are emotional. They depend on external factors. Standards are internal. They depend only on you. You can't control if you win, but you can control if you gave 100%. That's detachment in practice. Embrace boredom. Most people can't detach because they crave stimulation. They can't handle silence. They can't handle stillness. So they attach to noise, validation, and drama. Detach from all of it. Let boredom sharpen you. Reflect without judgment. Don't overthink your past actions. Review them like data. Analyze, adjust, move on. Emotions cloud clarity. Detachment reveals truth. You have to become the kind of person who moves forward whether it rains or burns. You have to become the one who executes when no one's clapping. That's what detachment really means. You keep walking even when the road disappears. You're not your emotions, you're your actions. Every time you want to quit because you don't feel it, remember, feelings are passengers. Action is the driver. Detach from the passengers. Keep driving. That's how you separate yourself from 99% of people, because they only act when it feels right. You act because it is right. That's mental toughness. That's maturity. That's freedom. You don't need to suppress emotions. You need to understand them. You can't fight waves. You learn to surf. You let emotion pass through you without letting it define you. That's the art. You feel anger, but you don't become anger. You feel fear, but you don't obey fear. You feel doubt, but you don't feed doubt. That's detachment in motion. When you act from emotion, you lose direction. When you act from discipline, you gain precision. You can't control who approves of you. You can't control who betrays you. You can't control who stays or leaves. But you can always control one thing, your execution. And that's what defines your life. So the next time you catch yourself overthinking, step back, breathe, detach. Ask yourself, am I acting from emotion or execution? If it's emotion, pause. If it's execution, proceed. That's how you win silently. That's how you stay grounded when the world shakes. Because the world will shake. People will disappoint you. Results will fluctuate, but your actions, they're your anchor. You're not your emotions. You're your actions. Repeat it again. Let it settle into your bones. That's the truth most people never learn. The ones who master detachment become unstoppable. Because nothing can manipulate them anymore. Not success, not failure, not applause, not rejection. They act from inner order, not outer chaos. And that's why detachment is freedom. Not from life, but from illusion. Detach or be destroyed. Because attachment is dependency. Dependency is weakness, and weakness destroys potential. But detachment, that's where calm power lives. That's where mental control begins. That's where execution becomes effortless. So step back, breathe, detach. Let go of the need to be liked. Let go of the need to be understood. Let go of the need to feel ready. Just execute. You're not your emotions, you're your actions. And every action you take with discipline over emotion rewires your mind for strength. Motivation is a trap. It's the most popular lie you've ever been sold. You've been told that motivation is the spark you need to begin, that you should wait until you feel ready, that inspiration will suddenly arrive, push you forward, and make everything feel easy. But here's the truth. Motivation is a myth. You don't need to feel good to do good. You don't need to be inspired to take action. You don't need to wait for the right time, because the right time doesn't exist. That's the lie motivation tells you. Not now, later. It's seductive, and it's the reason you keep restarting, but never finishing. You think you need motivation, but what you really need is momentum. Motivation is an emotion. Momentum is a decision. Motivation is emotional, it's temporary, it's chemical. It comes and goes like the weather. Unpredictable, unreliable, uncontrollable. You wake up one day and feel like doing the work. Great. The next day you don't. And suddenly your entire progress falls apart. That's because you've built your discipline on feelings, not decisions. Understand this. Motivation is about feelings. Momentum is about movement, and movement doesn't need permission. The people you call driven aren't more motivated than you. They've simply built systems that don't depend on emotion. They don't ask, "Do I feel like it today?" They act, no matter what the answer is. That's the key. They replace emotion with execution. Start before you feel ready. The greatest performers in the world don't wait for motivation. They act before they feel ready. Athletes train on the days they're tired. Writers write when they have no ideas. Entrepreneurs build when the world tells them it's impossible. They understand one thing: action creates clarity. You don't wait to feel confident before acting. You act your way into confidence. You don't wait to feel inspired before creating. You create your way into inspiration. That's how it works. Emotion follows motion, not the other way around. You've been doing it backward your entire life, waiting for a spark instead of building the fire, waiting for the right feeling instead of creating the right habit. You have a choice. You can keep waiting for motivation, or you can start building momentum. Momentum is built through action. Momentum doesn't start big, it starts small. One rep, one sentence, one step. You do it once, then you do it again, then again, and something shifts. You start feeling better, not because you waited for motivation, but because you acted despite its absence. That's the secret most people never learn. Motivation grows from movement. The act of doing builds the desire to keep going. Think about it. How many times did you start working out, not wanting to go, but halfway through you felt alive? That's momentum taking over. But if you'd waited for motivation to strike first, you would have never left the couch. Stop chasing inspiration. Build a system. Motivation depends on emotion. Systems depend on logic. You don't need to feel like it when you have structure. You just need to show up and follow the plan. That's what professionals do. That's what separates amateurs from winners. Amateurs chase feelings. Professionals chase execution. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters consistently. Every single day. You can build a system for anything. A time you show up, a rule you follow, a trigger that forces action. For example, you don't decide to go to the gym every day. You go because it's 7 p.m., and that's gym time. You don't decide to study. You sit down at your desk because that's your system. Systems remove the debate. They kill the question, do I feel like it? That's how momentum is born, through repetition, not motivation. You don't need inspiration. You need identity. Motivation fades because it's external. It comes from videos, quotes, people, or hype. But identity is internal. If you identify as someone who acts, who shows up, who executes, then you don't need the extra push. You simply do what your identity demands. If you see yourself as the kind of person who follows through, you will follow through, even on bad days, because identity overrides emotion. You don't need to feel inspired to brush your teeth. It's who you are. You don't need to feel motivated to go to work. It's what you do. That's the power of identity. When your actions align with who you believe you are, consistency becomes automatic. You have a choice. Keep chasing hype or build identity. That's the difference between fleeting motivation and permanent transformation. Motivation makes you a spectator. Momentum makes you a player. Scroll through social media, everyone's addicted to motivation. They watch videos, read quotes, listen to podcasts. They get that rush, that high, that I'm going to change my life feeling. But then, nothing happens. Because consumption without action is self-deception. You feel productive because you consumed something positive, but you didn't do anything. You became a spectator of your own potential. Motivation tricks you into thinking you're improving when you're actually standing still. Momentum doesn't allow that. Momentum demands movement. When you have momentum, you don't talk about doing. You do. You don't fantasize about success. You build it. That's the difference. Motivation excites you. Momentum transforms you. The discipline of daily execution. Replace the word motivation in your life with discipline. Say this to yourself: I don't need to feel good to take action. I don't wait for motivation, I build momentum. I act, and the feeling follows. That's how real progress happens. Do it once, do it again. Build that repetition until it becomes your new normal. That's how you build a powerful life. Not through hype, but through habit. Not through emotion, but through execution. Discipline isn't flashy. It's not exciting, but it's undefeated. Final words. You've been told motivation is the key. It's not. Motivation is fragile. Discipline is forever. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need a sign. You don't need their permission. You just need to begin. Because the second you act, the emotion you were waiting for finally shows up. Action creates energy. Movement builds momentum, and momentum makes you unstoppable. You want results. You say you want discipline. You say you want to change your life. Then stop acting like a human full of excuses. And start operating like a machine. Because the machine doesn't care how it feels. The machine doesn't care if it's tired, bored, or unmotivated. The machine just runs. It executes. It moves forward. That's the mindset you must build. The machine mindset. Every morning, you wake up and there's a choice. You can live based on how you feel, or you can live based on what must be done. The average person wakes up, checks their phone, scrolls, reacts, delays. They wait for motivation. They wait for energy. They wait for the right mood. Machines don't wait. Machines run. And that's the key. When you stop waiting for the perfect conditions and start executing under any condition, you separate yourself from 99% of people. You become reliable, unstoppable, predictable in your discipline. Not emotional, operational. You've got to rewire your mind to stop negotiating with emotion. Because emotion will always offer you an escape route. Emotion says, I'm tired. I deserve a break. I'll do it later. Discipline says, I move forward. I execute. I don't negotiate with emotion. Repeat that until it becomes your internal programming. Say it when you wake up. Say it when you want to quit. Say it when you don't feel like it. I move forward. I execute. I don't negotiate with emotion. This isn't motivation. This is mechanical programming. You're not trying to feel better. You're trying to function better. That's the difference between the emotional and the exceptional. Let me be clear. Emotions aren't the enemy. They're signals, not steering wheels. You can acknowledge how you feel, but you don't obey it. The machine mindset is about emotional control. It's about mastering the ability to act independently of mood, weather, or comfort. When you operate like a machine, you don't ask, do I feel ready? You ask, what's the next move? Machines don't get excited when they succeed. Machines don't get sad when they fail. They just adjust, recalibrate, and keep moving. That's the key. Neutral execution. Humans waste energy on emotion. Machines conserve energy for motion. You see the difference? People overthink. Machines just calculate. People complain. Machines correct. People delay. Machines deliver. You must train yourself to think less and do more. Because overthinking is the first leak in your performance system. You don't need another motivational video. You need consistency. You need repetition. You need code. Discipline is your code. Let's talk about reprogramming. Every time you say, I don't feel like it, you're reinforcing weakness. Every time you act despite that feeling, you're installing strength. You're literally rewriting your mental software. Action rewires identity. You act like a machine long enough, and one day you become one. You won't need motivation. You'll have automation. The machine mindset isn't about killing your humanity. It's about mastering it. It's about recognizing that your emotions can't be trusted to lead you toward long-term success. Your emotions want comfort. Your vision demands consistency. So choose consistency every single time. You must understand, there's power in routine, there's strength in repetition. A machine runs because it's built to do one thing: execute its process. Build your process, design your system, then run it, no matter what. Wake up, move, create, train, execute. Not sometimes, not when you feel good. Always. That's how discipline becomes identity. You have to stop romanticizing your emotions, stop glorifying motivation, stop saying, I need to feel inspired. You don't need inspiration, you need installation. You need to install new commands. Command, execute. Command, adapt. Command, persist. Because if your life only moves when you feel like it, you'll stay exactly where you are. But if your life moves because that's just what you do, then nothing can stop you. Let me make this simple. You are building an internal operating system. You can either build it around feelings or build it around function. One is fragile, the other is unstoppable. Feeling-based people are unpredictable. They show up late, they skip days, they give up when it's hard. Function-based people, they're dangerous. They do what needs to be done, even when they hate it. They know something most people forget. Consistency beats intensity. You don't need to be on fire, you need to keep walking forward, day after day, action after action. That's the machine mindset. So how do you build it? You train it, you practice it every single day. Start small. When the alarm goes off, get up. When it's time to work, start. When it's time to rest, rest with purpose. No hesitation, no emotion, just operation. If you're tired, you still move. If you're uninspired, you still create. If you're bored, you still finish the task. Because machines don't chase pleasure. They pursue output. And you're doing the same. You're producing results, not chasing feelings. It's not about being robotic in your relationships or emotionless in life. It's about discipline first. Because when discipline leads, emotions stabilize. When emotions lead, discipline disappears. You can't build your life around how you feel. You build it around what you know must be done. And here's the truth. Once you start thinking like this, the world becomes quieter. You stop caring about praise. You stop fearing judgment. You stop waiting for motivation. You just move forward. You just execute. You don't negotiate with emotion. That's not a quote. That's a way of living. People will call you cold. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're too focused. Good. That's the goal. You're not here to please people. You're here to build power. Machines don't explain their purpose. They just perform it. You don't need to justify your discipline to anyone. You show them through your consistency. You prove it through your results. Because when everyone else is stopping, you're still moving. And that's what makes you unstoppable. So remember this. Feelings are temporary. Systems are permanent. If you want power, build the system. If you want peace, trust the system. If you want progress, run the system. That's the machine mindset. You are not your emotion. You are your execution. Repeat it again. I move forward. I execute. I don't negotiate with emotion. That's your code. That's your identity. That's your advantage. The voice that says, I don't feel like it. That voice has been running your life. It talks you out of progress. It talks you out of pain. It talks you out of growth. And here's the hard truth. That voice isn't you. It's your weakness pretending to be logic. It's comfort dressed up as reason. It's fear wearing a mask of self-care. You've been listening to that voice for too long. Every time it says, just rest today, you obey. Every time it says, you deserve a break, you pause. Every time it says, it's not the right time, you delay. And delay after delay becomes a life of waiting. That's how discipline dies. Not with a loud crash, but with a quiet whisper. I don't feel like it. You have to take control of that voice. You have to train your internal dialogue like a soldier. You have to command your mind instead of negotiating with it. You see, your inner noise, that constant chatter of doubt, fear, and excuses, is not random. It's trained. It's learned behavior. You taught your mind that hesitation gets rewarded. You taught it that comfort wins. Now you have to retrain it. And the only way to do that is to speak differently to yourself. Stop letting your inner voice talk at you. Start talking to it. You are not a victim of your thoughts. You are their commander. That's the key. Let's be clear. Control doesn't mean silence. You can't stop thoughts from showing up, but you can decide which thoughts get to stay. Every time that voice says I can't, you replace it with I will. Every time it says not now, you say now. Every time it says I'm tired, you say do it tired. That's how you win. That's how you turn weakness into obedience. It starts with silent affirmations, not the fluffy kind, not the I am enough nonsense. Real affirmations, built on discipline, not comfort. Say it in your mind like a command: I move now, I decide now, I do what must be done. No emotion, no delay, just command. You're not trying to feel strong, you're deciding to be strong. That's the difference between average and exceptional. When the inner noise gets loud, when your mind starts throwing excuses, you answer it with action. Immediate micro-actions, small, decisive moves that kill hesitation before it grows. You don't argue with laziness, you outmove it. Don't want to work out? Put on your shoes. Don't want to write? Open the document. Don't want to make the call? Dial the number. The first step is the death of doubt. Action shuts the noise up, because hesitation feeds the voice. Movement starves it. The moment you act, that voice weakens. It loses its grip. It realizes it's no longer in control. You are. And that's the turning point. Understand this. Your mind works for you. It's not your boss, it's your tool. When you let your emotions run your thoughts, you surrender your power. But when you decide what gets your focus, your energy shifts. The noise fades, the mission becomes clear. Every command you give to your mind reinforces a new identity, an identity of control. An identity of strength, an identity of discipline. Because that's what this chapter is about. Discipline over dialogue. You can't reason your way into greatness. You command your way there. That's the real difference between dreamers and doers. Dreamers talk about how they feel, doers give themselves orders. You have to stop listening to the noise and start issuing commands. Let me make this practical. Here's how you train your inner voice. Step 1. Awareness. Catch the negative dialogue immediately. When your mind says, I'll do it later, notice it, name it. That's weakness talking. Step 2. Replace. Don't let that thought finish. Cut it off with a command. I'll do it now. Move. Execute. Step 3. Micro-action. Take one small step instantly before emotion catches up. This is the formula for killing hesitation. You're not trying to silence the voice, you're replacing its language. You're turning it from a complaint-based system into a command-based one. Over time, your internal dialogue starts to change. Your thoughts stop negotiating, they start obeying. You stop asking, how do I feel, and start saying, this is what must be done. That's how you become unstoppable. You have to remember, the mind loves comfort. It will rationalize every excuse with perfect logic. It will say you need rest. It will say you've done enough. It will say tomorrow will be better. But discipline doesn't care about comfort. Discipline doesn't care about mood. Discipline only cares about execution, and execution requires control. You have to silence the part of you that wants comfort and amplify the part of you that demands results. You have to choose your voice. You have 2 choices every day: listen to the noise or lead it. You can't do both. The strongest people in the world, mentally, emotionally, physically, all have one thing in common. They command their minds. They don't feel like doing it either. They just don't care. They don't wait for motivation. They move first, and motivation follows. That's how you build mental toughness. Not by reading about it, not by talking about it, but by acting in spite of the noise. You can't think your way into discipline. You have to act your way into it. So the next time your mind says, I don't feel like it, smile. Recognize it for what it is. Weakness trying to survive. Then whisper back, I'm not asking you. And move. That's control. That's mastery. Because the goal isn't to stop the noise. The goal is to own it. When your mind becomes your servant, you stop being a prisoner of hesitation. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop seeking external permission. You start leading yourself. And that is where transformation begins. Control the inner noise. Train your thoughts to obey. Command your actions into alignment. This is how you reclaim power. This is how you rebuild discipline. This is how you silence doubt with movement. You've learned to control your inner world. Now it's time to control your environment. You've heard of minimalism when it comes to stuff, clothes, gadgets, clutter. But there's another kind of minimalism that most people never master. Emotional minimalism. It's not about how clean your desk is. It's about how quiet your mind is. It's about removing the emotional junk that keeps you weak, distracted, and lost. You've been taught to feel everything. You've been told to express everything. But what if that's the reason you're exhausted, unproductive, and unfocused? Emotional minimalism is the art of subtraction, not addition. You don't need more motivation, you need less noise. Because the truth is, your emotions are not your identity. They're signals, not commands. They're information, not instruction. But most people obey every emotion like it's a law. You feel tired, you stop. You feel doubt, you quit. You feel offended, you lash out. That's emotional clutter. That's chaos. And chaos kills consistency. You have a choice to live like that or to strip it all down to what matters. To move through life with the emotional precision of a soldier. Look at elite performers, Navy SEALs, Special Forces, elite athletes. They don't waste energy on emotions that don't serve the mission. They've trained themselves to feel everything and control everything. That's not cold, that's power. They've learned one simple truth. If it doesn't move the mission forward, it's irrelevant. You must learn to live like that. One goal, one direction, zero noise. That's emotional minimalism. Ask yourself this. How many thoughts do you carry that have no purpose? How many emotional loops do you replay? What they said, how they looked, what might happen next? That's wasted bandwidth. That's emotional debt. Minimalists clear their rooms. You must clear your mind. Because the clutter isn't out there. It's in you, in your reactions, in your need for validation, in your endless comparisons. Every time you scroll and envy someone's success, clutter. Every time you replay a mistake instead of learning from it, clutter. Every time you argue with someone just to prove a point, clutter. You don't need to feel lighter. You need to be lighter. And that means cutting emotional fat. So how do you do it? How do you become emotionally minimal? Step 1. Stop explaining yourself. You don't owe anyone a justification for your boundaries, your pace, or your goals. That endless explaining is emotional clutter disguised as politeness. Step 2. Respond. Don't react. Reactions are emotional reflexes. They belong to amateurs. Responses are controlled, calculated, and precise. That's emotional discipline. Step 3. Detach from drama. If it's not your mission, it's not your concern. Let other people drown in their storms. You keep walking in silence. Step 4. Simplify your emotional range. You don't need 50 moods. You need 3. Calm, focused, relentless. That's it. Everything else is optional. That's the key. Simplicity. Because every unnecessary emotion is a tax on your performance. You might think, but I'm human. I can't just turn it off. You're right, you can't turn it off, but you can turn it down. You can reduce its volume. You can choose what deserves your emotional energy. You can choose what deserves your reaction. That's the choice emotional minimalists make every day. You can't control how you feel in the moment, but you can control what you do next. That's the line between amateurs and professionals. Professionals feel frustration and still execute. Professionals feel fear and still move. Professionals feel anger and still think clearly. Because they've stripped away everything that doesn't serve the goal. It's not that they don't feel, it's that they don't feed what they feel. You have to starve your distractions, starve your insecurities, starve your need for sympathy, and feed one thing only: discipline. Let's talk about focus, because emotional minimalism and focus are twins. You can't focus when you're emotionally overloaded. You can't think clearly when you're reacting to everything. When you focus on everything, you move toward nothing. That's the truth. And the emotionally minimal know that. So they simplify. They eliminate what doesn't matter. People, opinions, habits. They live in a narrow lane where their purpose fits perfectly. You need to do the same. Stop trying to be everywhere emotionally. Stop trying to fix everyone emotionally. Stop trying to understand every feeling that passes through you. Feel it. Note it. Move on. That's the discipline. Emotional minimalism isn't cold, it's clarity. It's not about shutting down your humanity, it's about sharpening it. Because when you strip away the noise, your true emotions get louder. Purpose, gratitude, resilience. The emotions that build you, not break you. You'll notice something happens when you live this way. People will call you distant. They'll say you've changed, they'll say you don't care. They're right, you don't. You don't care about gossip, about emotional games, about chaos. You care about the mission. You care about growth, you care about peace. That's the cost of simplicity, misunderstanding. But that's the reward too, freedom. Emotional minimalism is freedom. Freedom from overthinking, freedom from reactivity, freedom from being controlled by the outside world. Because every time you let something get under your skin, you give away control. You hand over your focus, your energy, your time. You lose power. Emotional minimalism takes it back. You decide what gets in, you decide what gets a response, you decide what deserves energy. That's mastery. And mastery doesn't come from feeling more. It comes from needing less. So start cutting, not people, not opportunities. Cut your emotional overreactions. Cut your unnecessary worries. Cut your dependency on praise. Start living with emotional precision. If it doesn't move your life forward, if it doesn't align with your purpose, drop it. You don't need their approval. You don't need their energy. You don't need their noise. All you need is focus, peace, and forward motion. That's the formula, because the less you carry, the faster you move. The less you feel unnecessarily, the more you feel intentionally. That's power. That's control. That's emotional minimalism. The world doesn't reward the most emotional person. It doesn't reward the most inspired person. It rewards the most consistent person. You don't need intensity. You need consistency. That's the truth nobody wants to hear. Everyone loves the idea of passion, fire, motivation. But passion fades. Fire burns out. Motivation dies the moment things get hard. Consistency stays. Consistency wins. Consistency builds everything you say you want. Think about it. The person who trains 3 days a week, every week for a year, will destroy the person who trains every day for 2 weeks and quits. The person who works on their craft 1 hour every night will surpass the person who does 10 hours in one burst and then disappears. You don't need intensity. You need consistency. Because success isn't built in explosions. It's built in repetition. It's built in the boring. It's built in the quiet hours when nobody's watching. The world celebrates the highlight reel, but the truth is written in the practice tape. The small things you repeat over and over and over again. You see, consistency is ruthless. It doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care what the weather is. It doesn't care if you're tired, broken, or uninspired. Consistency demands one thing: show up anyway. And that's the difference between the amateur and the professional. The amateur waits to feel right before acting. The professional acts whether they feel right or not. You don't need intensity. You need consistency. Let me make something clear. Consistency is not about perfection. It's about direction. It's about keeping the line moving forward, no matter how slow. If you did one thing today that moved you 1 inch closer, you won. If you repeated it tomorrow, you built momentum. And if you keep that rhythm long enough, you'll look back one day and realize you've built a life. That's how power is formed. Not by bursts of brilliance, by ruthless consistency. Look at any area of your life. Your health, your discipline, your business, your relationships. Every single one of them runs on consistency. If you feed them daily, they grow. If you neglect them, they die. It's that simple. You don't need intensity, you need consistency. The reason most people never change is because they treat self-improvement like a sprint. They go all in for a week, burn out, then disappear. They think they failed, but what really happened is they refuse to play the long game. And that's the key. The long game. The long game is where results hide. It's where character forms. It's where transformation happens. You say you want change, then stop chasing fireworks and start laying bricks. Every brick looks boring. Every brick looks the same, but stack enough of them, and you've got a wall no one can break. Every rep, every page, every small disciplined act, that's your wall. You don't need intensity, you need consistency. Now here's the brutal truth. Most people will never taste what consistency creates, because it's slow, because it's unsexy, because it doesn't give instant validation. We live in a world addicted to speed and comfort. People want results today. They want applause now. They want to feel like progress means fireworks, but that's not how reality works. Reality pays compound interest. Reality pays those who show up every day, even when it doesn't look like it's working. That's ruthless consistency. You want to change your body? Don't overhaul your life. Start with 1 walk every morning, every day, no excuses. You want to change your mind? Don't read 10 books at once. Read 10 pages a day, every day, no excuses. You want to change your future? Stop chasing new plans. Stick to one plan long enough to let it work. Every day, no excuses. You don't need intensity, you need consistency. Here's a question. Can you do the boring thing for 90 days straight? Can you follow through without the applause? Can you show up when the results are invisible? If the answer is yes, then you're already ahead of 99% of the world. Because 99% of people can't do boring. They crave emotional highs, they crave dopamine hits, they crave everything but consistency. That's why they never evolve, that's why they stay stuck. Ruthless consistency means you no longer negotiate with your feelings, you execute your plan. You respect your commitment, you trust the process even when it's silent. Because consistency isn't just a habit, it's an identity. It's who you are when no one's watching. It's how you carry yourself when nobody's clapping. That's the difference. That's the power. You don't need intensity, you need consistency. And here's the paradox. When you become consistent, you become intense. Because every small action multiplies over time. You develop a rhythm, you develop momentum, and momentum is unstoppable. Consistency creates intensity. That's the secret. That's the reward for showing up when others quit. You win not because you're the loudest, not because you're the smartest, but because you refuse to disappear. Every day, you built a brick. Every day, you showed up, and that's how you win. You don't need intensity, you need consistency. So here's your challenge. Pick one area of your life, not 5, not 10, just one, and decide to become ruthlessly consistent in it. Rain or shine, good day or bad, energy high or energy gone. Show up, because once you prove to yourself that you can do it in one area, you'll realize you can do it anywhere. Consistency is contagious. It infects your mindset, your habits, your results. It rewires who you are. And the day you stop depending on motivation and start depending on consistency, that's the day you become unstoppable. You don't need intensity. You need consistency. When you control focus, you control life. Distraction is slavery. Attention is power. That's the truth most people never learn. They live their entire lives with their attention scattered across 1,000 meaningless things. Every ping, every scroll, every notification, it's a leash. They think they're free, but they're not. They're being led, controlled, drained, one dopamine hit at a time. If your attention can be stolen, your life can be controlled. That's the reality. And most people are willingly giving it away, to algorithms, to gossip, to noise. You want freedom? Then you have to start by mastering your focus, because focus is freedom. Look around. Everyone's chasing something. Attention, validation, likes, approval. They're busy, but not productive. They're active, but not effective. They mistake motion for progress. That's the first lie distraction sells you. If you're doing something, you're moving forward. No. If you're doing the wrong thing, you're standing still, or worse, moving backward. That's why focus matters. It's not just about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. When you focus, you make every action count. When you scatter your attention, you become powerless. You can't build anything meaningful when your attention is split between a dozen worlds. You can't reach mastery if you can't sit in silence with one thing long enough to understand it. The world rewards the focused and punishes the distracted. That's not an opinion, that's a law of reality. You have to treat your focus like it's oxygen, because in a way, it is. Without it, your purpose suffocates. Every notification you check, every pointless argument you dive into, every time you open your phone for no reason, that's a small cut to your power. One cut doesn't seem like much, but 1,000? That's death by distraction. You want to win? Then start protecting your attention like a warrior guards his weapon, because that's what it is, your sharpest edge. Ask yourself, who owns my focus today? Is it me, or is it someone else? If you can't answer that with certainty, you've already lost. Focus isn't something you find. It's something you fight for. Every day, every hour, every minute. Let's get practical. How do you reclaim your focus? Step 1. Eliminate noise. Noise isn't just sound, it's anything that steals mental energy without giving you value. It's gossip, it's drama, it's endless scrolling, it's fake urgency. You have to cut it, ruthlessly, without guilt, because noise doesn't deserve your attention. Silence does. Step 2. Control your environment. You can't stay focused in a world designed to distract you. So you redesign your world. Turn off notifications. Keep your phone out of reach. Use your space for work, not for escape. Your environment either amplifies your focus or destroys it. There's no neutral ground. Step 3. Define your target. You can't focus without clarity. What matters most to you today? What must be done? No excuses, no delays. Write it down. Then attack it with intensity. And when you work, work. No tabs. no background noise, no multitasking. Multitasking is a lie. It's not efficiency, it's division. You're not doing more, you're doing less with more confusion. Focus is simple. You do one thing, you do it fully, you do it until it's done, then you move to the next. That's how you build power. That's how you build peace. Because focus doesn't just create results, it creates calm. When you're focused, your mind stops spinning. You stop thinking about everything you could be doing and start owning what you are doing. That's freedom. Not running away from the world, but being untouchable within it. When you master your focus, you stop reacting and start directing. You move with intention. You decide where your energy goes, who gets your time, what deserves your attention. That's real control. That's real independence. The average person can't focus for 5 minutes without distraction. You want to separate yourself from average? Focus for 30. Then an hour. Then 3. That's not just concentration, that's discipline. And discipline is where true freedom begins. Because here's the paradox. Freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want. It comes from doing what you must, even when you don't feel like it. It comes from mastering your impulses, not being ruled by them. Focus trains that muscle. Every time you resist distraction, you become stronger. Every time you delay gratification, you sharpen your edge. That's how you evolve, not by motivation, but by mastery. You have to stop letting the world pull you in 100 directions. Stop saying yes to everything. Stop giving your time away to people who drain you. Stop opening your phone just because you're bored. That boredom you're running from, it's not your enemy. It's the gateway to focus. Sit with it. Let it hurt. Let your brain reset, because clarity lives on the other side of silence. The moment you stop escaping, you start growing. Focus gives you back your time. It gives you back your mind. It gives you back your life. But only if you protect it. You can't complain about having no direction if you keep feeding your distractions. You can't say you want success and still scroll aimlessly through other people's lives. You can't demand freedom while willingly enslaving your attention. The truth is simple. If you don't control your focus, someone else will. And they'll use it to build their dream, not yours. From this moment on, treat your attention as sacred. Decide what matters. Eliminate what doesn't. And when you work, lock in. Go deep. No half effort. No background noise. No checking in every 5 minutes. You're not built for distraction. You're built for dominance. The world doesn't need more scattered minds. It needs more focused ones. The people who change the world are the ones who can sit alone in silence and work while everyone else scrolls, talks, and wastes time. Be that person. Because the second you own your focus, you own your freedom. The second you cut noise, you regain power. And the second you stop chasing distractions, you start chasing destiny. So remember this, focus isn't about perfection, it's about control. You don't need to be flawless, you just need to be disciplined. Every time you get distracted, pull yourself back. Every time your mind wanders, refocus. That's the practice. That's the process. That's how freedom is earned. You can't be free if your attention is enslaved. You can't rise if your mind is scattered. Freedom begins where focus lives. Say it until it's truth. No feelings, no noise, only focus. That's freedom. You've heard enough. Now it's time to choose. You can keep letting your emotions dictate your life, or you can take command of your mind. You can keep reacting, or you can start executing. Every great transformation starts when feelings stop leading the way. You don't need to feel strong, you need to act strong. You don't need motivation, you need direction. You don't need inspiration, you need consistency. This is your challenge. From this moment on, act without emotion. Execute without hesitation. Detach from how you feel and commit to what must be done. The weak are ruled by feelings. The strong are driven by focus. No feelings, just focus. Start today.